You're listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online, and my name, that means it's Andrew Mackay-Smith. Of course you knew that if you're a long-time listener, and if you're new, welcome, because I've got a hell of an interview subject coming up for you. It's Michael Stützer from the Danish thrash metal icons, Artillery. Now, the reason for the chat is to talk up their 2020 Australian tour. I can't believe I'm saying that. How many times have you heard me say that? I can't believe that a legendary thrash band, or any band really, death metal, black metal, whatever it might be. I've been following these genres for so long, and all of these bands, I think we've had every single one of them of note tour Australia in the last 10 years. And Artillery to tour is just a cherry on the cake. So here we go. Here are the dates. Tuesday, February 4th, they're playing the Gold Coast, where I'm from, at Vinnie's Dive. I can't believe that, but I can't get to that show because I've got uni that day and the next day, and it'll be too hard for me to go. So that means I'm going to be going to Brisbane, which is on the next day, Wednesday, February 5th at Crowbar. That's fine. Crowbar's a pretty good venue, I suppose. Thursday, February 6th, they're at Canberra in the basement. Friday, February 7th, they're playing at Stay Gold in Melbourne. Saturday, February 8th, I suppose it's a festival appearance at Churches of Steel 9. There you go, in Adelaide. And finally, Sydney. Where else but, there's Crowbar in Sydney too, but Frankie's Pizza seems to be getting all of the big ones lately, the good ones, on the 9th, which is a Sunday. So without further delay, here he is, Michael from the band Artillery.
Hello, it's Michael.
Here he is, the one and only. How are you?
I'm fine. How about you?
I'm good, and I must say from the outset, I've got to compliment you on your T-shirt here in your avatar for Skype. Rainbow Rising. Nice.
Yeah, that's an awesome album.
It's a fantastic album. Yeah, I probably my favourite aspect of that album is Cozy Powell's drums. That's where I really fell in love with his drumming. I just think he's the most marvellous drummer.
Yeah, he was very unique. I also have a lot of solo albums from him, and of course his work in Black Sabbath also, and many of those bands he's been with Jeff Beck, and he's really been a lot of MSG. He played a lot of bands, so yeah, cool drummer.
Yeah, I think he's the one guy that every band he was ever in was better for him being in it. You know, Whitesnake, you talk about, Rainbow, Black Sabbath. Even the work that he did with Brian May and Queen was extraordinary. It's just, you can tell it's him every time he drums.
Yeah, he had that feeling, that really awesome way to play.
Yeah, so, I think he was better than Bonham. I'm controversial statement here, but I think he was better than Bonham. And when Led Zeppelin were thinking about potentially continuing with him in the band, and I understand that's the case, I reckon they could potentially become a more dynamic band, even though they'd already released a classic and legendary catalogue of work. But that's my view.
Yeah, but I also love John Bonham, but I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So yeah,
cool, mate. We're here to talk about Artillery, though, and let me tell you, Michael, you have been at it, as you well know, since Fear of Tomorrow, which was released in 1985. And mate, 9 albums later, 9 studio albums later, and there's a few other releases scattered around, but the main thing is you've achieved 9 studio albums. Now, alongside of Overkill, and I had to check this, and I think I'm right, but you're the single thrash band that never veered into unfamiliar territory. And you know what? Fans love you for that, because you stayed true to the thrash cause or the heavy metal cause, really, and you clearly love what you do. But, mate, my first question for you ultimately is, all that said, how did you resist the temptation to veer into new metal, etc., when so many others went down that path back in the 90s and early 2000s?
No, not really, because as you said, we love to play, but we also love to play what we want to hear, So as you said, there's a lot of the old 70s stuff in our music, but also a lot of fresh things like old Metallica, Exodus, and stuff like that. That's the way we want to combine the things, and we really love to play that kind of style. It's a style we all in the band listen to also, So it's not just like we're hitting to a one way to play, and we never consider to go, like new metal or grunge or whatever. We really want to play this kind of music, and as you said, we have some very true fans that really love that we don't, sell out and do some other stuff, So yeah, it's very honest, I think.
It is very honest music. I can feel it. You're a bit like AC/DC in that every time I hear the opening strands of a song, so the chords or your guitar playing specifically, you're one of those guys. I'll veer off into another tangent, but let me go here. You're one of those guys who's such a good guitarist and you're so original with what you do, mate, but you've never actually been recognised for it. And it shits me because there are guitar worlds out there that have I shouldn't even say that I know what's in the magazine these days or on the website version of whatever the magazines are these days, but I can place money that they've got whoever played session guitar for Imagine Dragons and all these other bands. But, mate, you've been doing this for so long and you've inspired people, no doubt, to pick up the guitar. So have you ever been asked to appear in some of those guitar-themed magazines or online publications?
Yeah, there's been some few, but it's not, like the big guitar players magazine. But we also always, take artillery for not only for the guitars or only for the drums or for the singing. The things I'm most glad for when people come to me to say, "That's a good track you're done. That's a good song." I think that's the most important for me. Of course, we want to be good as possible on guitar, on drums, and stuff. And I think we have a good unit now, really good working together. But the most important for me is people come to say, this new song, "In the Face of Fear," for example, that's really a good song. That's really something who makes my heart go. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah. And look, aside from back in 1999, I remember this. Actually, I remember when BACK or Back was released. And I remember reading about it in Metal Maniacs. God, I miss that magazine. And there's really a 20-year gap between By Inheritance, which was released in 90, and When Death Comes, which came along in 2009. So you obviously had a job and raised a family in between. Was that the case?
Yeah, so we really wanted to be, as I said, in combining the style, but we, at that time when we did the back album was more like a project, It was not really a band effort at that time because Fleming Ronstadt was really not keen on going out to play on tours and stuff like that. So he really only wanted to be on the album, So it was very difficult for us to go further on. And at that time in Denmark, it was really difficult to get singers who had a melodic way to sing. So that's why it was a gap between that, I think. But I think when we returned, when Death Comes with the new singer Søren Adamsen, we was really, keen to prove that artillery are still going on,
Well, I think you've released more albums since When Death Comes, than prior. You know that. So you're really a band. I mean, that's the thing that I think people forget, that yourselves, Sodom, Destruction, those German bands, Creator, even, I'd say even them, you guys have released probably your best work since 2010, if you don't mind me saying. And I know there's a lot of nostalgia associated with heavy metal and thrash metal, but, mate, when I'm listening to your most recent efforts, man, it's all there, man. You can't ask for any more than that. And I guess my question for you, therefore, is, do you feel the same way about your catalogue?
Yeah, so I'm the kind of guy, I love both the old stuff and the new stuff. But what I really like on the new stuff is like we have of course we've been better musicians and we also are more very varied, if you can say that. We have always a ballad song, for example. We also have that on By Inheritance, that's true. But we try to keep it more variated, Also because we have a singer now who really can do a lot of stuff, So you can combine the things so the songs are getting maybe even stronger, But of course, people still also want to hear songs like Comaniac and Terror Squad, for example. So we still keep them in our set, and also love to play them still. But I think you had right in that when the music is getting newer, we are getting better to make the songs, I think.
Yeah, well, I sense a maturity in your writing, and I know that's a cliche to say that bloody M word, maturity, but I think it's there, and I mean, it's been very consistent since then. So I've got a podcast series, if it's okay with you, I'll release this as part of my podcast series, but for the listener,
of course.
When Death Comes, My Blood in 2011, Legions from 2013, Penalty by Perception, that is awesome. That's that album title,
Yeah.
2016, and then The Face of Fear. I shouldn't say last year. I was going to say last year, but 2 years ago, 2018, because this is 2020, of course. These are incredibly strong, balls to the wall, no bullshit thrash metal extravaganzas. With, to your point, melodic singing, man. So, would you say that? And I hope this isn't too obvious a question. Would you say that at this point in time you've got a bit of an artillery formula down pat? Because as I say, it's all there, man. It's very consistent.
Yeah, maybe, but it's not like we sit down and say we have to make a song like this, we have to make a song like this. It's all coming, like I come with some riffs, or some of the other guys come with some riffs, and we set us down and said, oh, that sounded cool, let's try it out. And we still, throw a lot of stuff away, not using it, because we said this is not good enough to work here. So maybe a kind of formula we have, but it's not like we sit down and say we have to do it like this, But maybe inside your brain, you have it, without thinking about it.
I'm hearing you. Yeah. Okay. So, hey, this next question's about Australia, because the reason for the conversation is that you are actually coming to Australia. And again, I don't know how many times I've said this on the podcast, but I'm so grateful that you are, meaning that I'm a fan. And I think a lot of fans are too. We never thought we'd see you here or even back here. You might have been here before, but I couldn't see online that you'd been here before. But mate, you're coming here and you're playing a very solid shows that I know are being very well received. So how do you choose a set list for Australian fans and those that are really yet to get what Artillery do?
Yeah, we really combine both the old songs and the new songs, because we always do that, because some places people want to most hear the old songs, some places people want to hear most of the new songs. But we always combine it, because as I said, we have some very old, like a bit of classic songs, like for example Terrascope by Inheritance, Comaniac, so as people really want to hear, and The Almighty, for example, for the first album. Those songs we try to keep it set all the time. And we try to always to combine, and for example on the Australian tour, I think we will have two songs to switch out on every show, So we have two new songs on each shows to make it have so many songs, because it's always difficult to make songs for when you out of play. How many songs should you have? Because we want to have 20 songs, but we can't play a show on 20 songs, So we try to do that way. And we always keep for example, the title track for the new album. We have the Living by the Sky for the penalty album and stuff like that. We always try to keep those songs also.
Cool, mate. Well, fans will appreciate it. I can tell you that, because Australian fans, mate, we've lived sort of in the shadow of Europe and the US for most of rock music's history. Let's face it. So when we get bands like yourself and Creator, Destruction, Sodom touring, man, deep cuts are cool because you got fans here. You know what I mean? You got fans that know the records, have your back patch on their denim jacket. Man, I've seen them. I'm a dad these days, so I sort of can't dress up like that anymore too successfully. But a lot of these kids, man, and young adults, mate, they love your music, man, and they're just going to be so appreciative of the fact that you're representing both eras. Because as I said earlier, man, it is about both eras with you guys. They're very strong.
Yeah, and it's cool today because many of our shows that has come in, the old guy who grew up with the old songs came with their sons, for example, and that's really cool to see the two new generations come to listen to the same band.
Absolutely.
That's really cool.
Hey, what's your opinion been of Australia in terms of Australian fans over the years? Have you got a lot of mail from us and a lot of social media contact?
Yeah, we have some really hardcore fans from Australia, and it's very good to let them know now that we are coming, because that's for me personally, it's really great to go to Australia, because I always have wanted to go to Australia, because we have been playing so much all over the world, but never in Australia. So I'm really looking forward to that, and to please those fans who have been written to me for so many years and said, when do you come? And I always said to them, I'll really try, but we haven't got the offers right now. But I'm really looking forward to Australia, because we have been playing South America, we've been playing the United States,
I've noticed,
played China, we played Japan, Russia, So we really miss Australia on that list. So I'm really looking forward to that. And also, I think Australia is a very good country. I know it's burning a lot at the moment, but when I look at Australia, it looks like a really good country. So I'm really looking forward to see that.
Oh yeah. It's you're right on both accounts there. We'd love to have you here, and the bloody place is on fire at the moment. Or it's the media's. I noticed that the media is beating it up a lot, and they're saying that, particularly the left-wing media, CNN, they're saying that parts of Australia are burning. Like my part, we aren't. The Gold Coast, we aren't on fire. I can assure everybody. It's hot, but it's summer in Australia.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, just to get back to the music, mate. Yeah, definitely, mate. You got a lot of fans here, and so let me ask you this question then. You are revered, and this is a really important point because I've noticed the people on my Facebook feed that have been sharing the advertisements and the fact that you are coming to Australia, and this is how I found out about it, are predominantly musicians. It's interesting because like King's X, Mr. Big, I think Artillery are a musician band. You know that? You know what I mean by that? Like musicians like certain Dream Theater, musicians tend to sort of go for certain bands, and I think Artillery might be the thrash band of choice there. But my question for you is, what's your opinion of the state of heavy metal in 2020?
Yeah, I know what you mean, because a lot of musicians always support Artillery. For example, Gene Hoglan, for example, wrote me that Artillery was fucking great, and I have a lot of that. In the early days, Metallica supported the band a lot. So I know what you mean for the musician, but I also really want to get out to the fans, and the real metal freaks also. So, and I think the state for Artillery in 2020 is still growing, because we're still going a lot out to play. I think we play about around 80 to 100 concerts a year. So we play a really lot of shows. So I think the time has never been better for Artillery to play. Is it now? Because in the 80s we had really difficult to get out to play. We didn't play so many shows. So if you compare that with the old time, and now we're really gonna go out on the road a lot more now, and that's really cool.
And look, just on the theme of musicians, like, can you share with the listener, who is a lot of the time going to be a guitarist or a bassist like myself, can you tell me what gear you're using these days?
Yeah, I'm using a Marshall JCM 2000,
nice.
3 channels, with a master volume and a channel, and I have still my own BC Rich guitar from the 80s.
BC Rich,
even a Stützer streamer, and I have some Gates and I have Morley and I use an Octaver bus, and an Octaver I use for some kind of the things to make it more heavier and more thicker. Yeah. So that's the basic, and I have used the same, I think, years.
Oh, is that right? Okay, yeah, I was going to ask you that question about how you ended up there, but if you've been using it for years, it's self-explanatory. But being a bassist, I've tried many combinations over the years, and believe me, I reckon it's about 25 years of experience that I've got performing and playing, maybe longer, maybe 30 years of playing and 25 years of performing, that I've arrived at a sound just now. So I'm talking about after almost 30 years of playing, that I'm not even going to say happy with, but reasonably comfortable with. You know what I mean? And it's that musician's journey of the eternal quest for tone, isn't it? And have you found that at times you've gone back to your rig, your Marshall there, and your BC Rich guitars and all of the other effects that you mentioned there, and have you found that you've gone back and said, nope, I'm not quite happy, I want to redo something here, but where do I start?
Yeah, but you always want to get it better if you can, but I'm really satisfied with that combination I have now, because I've been using that on records since by inheritance. It was only on the album Tarot Squad we had some PV amps we used on that. But I was never really satisfied with that, because I think especially the lead sound was not so good as on the Marshall. But it's an opinion, and if you feel safe playing what you have, you're not so keen to try another stuff, of course. But you never know, there's coming so many good things up. So you never know if you're going to change someday. But at the moment, I'm very satisfied.
Okay, gotcha. Well, that's awesome, mate. Yeah, I mean, you've got a great sound, mate. There's no point in changing it at all whatsoever. So, don't screw with what's working. That's for sure. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, is Morton? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I'm reading bloody Wikipedia here. It's stupid. Yeah, sorry. Wikipedia is so dumb, isn't it? My apologies. Yeah. I didn't realise that he'd passed away just recently. So my condolences there, mate.
Yeah, that's. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's was tough, of course, but he really wanted us to keep going, you know. And he didn't play with us live since 2016 because he was not feeling good.
Okay.
And but he was on the last album playing on The Face of Fear, and I'm very happy that he made that, you know, before he passed away. Yeah. So, but he really supported us in every time and always said to me, "Keep the band going, Michael. Keep the band going." So that's also in his spirit, you know.
Oh, that's awesome, mate. Yeah, no, I'm sorry to hear about that. Deaths in families are, especially someone such as your brother. I've lost my father years ago. They're never easy, mate. At the end of the day, but mate, it's always the case, mate. When you got someone there that close to you, like a brother or a father, mate, they're always there in spirit.
Yeah.
You know.
So he will be with us when we're touring, you know, in the mind. So that's cool.
Well, I will ask this question because it was a question I had planned. But, I mean, the reality is you were both together as brothers and bandmates for a very long time, close to 40 years. You know that? You know, you're kind of like the metal version of the Gallagher brothers, really, because, to your point, he's the only one of your comrades that appeared on every album with you that still was in the band up to his passing. But how did you survive in a band with your own brother without wanting to murder each other? You know what I mean? I mean, sibling rivalry style.
Yeah, I mean, that's the funny thing, because in the start we was not very agreeing on stuff, you know. But on the especially if after we reunited, we was very you know, similar and very really wanted the same things, you know, and really loved the same kinds of songs, and was very more easy to work together, you know. But also because of the other guys in the bands, we have a really good friendship in the bands now. You know, it's really like 5 good guys who really love to be with each other. In the early days, there was not so much friendship in there. There was more like, you know, you're gonna play some music. You know?
Sure.
So yeah, I think we had a very good, we're very agreeing on a lot of things on the last albums. So that was cool.
That's awesome, mate. Yeah. Well, long may he live in spirit, brother. You know, I mean, it's you guys have had a great band together. I mean, that's the thing. You know, I mean, I think it's really. I talk about this a lot in private, and I only say it occasionally on the podcast. But what you're doing is so important to people, and I want you to understand this. That what yourself, you know, I said the same thing. I think to Michael Schenker when I had a chat to him. You know, you can't not do what you're doing because you bring so much joy to people. You know, and your brother's a part of that. You bring so much joy to people, and it's as important as food to a lot of people. You know what I mean? This sort of music, when you're a fan and you're a diehard, you can't live without it. It's such a massive part of your psyche. And, mate, you've probably gotten people through really bad moments in their life where they've questioned why the hell they're even here. You know, and your music has done that. And I don't think heavy metal ever gets the credit that it needs to. And, you know, and you're a big part of that.
Yeah. I'm very glad to hear that. That's because that's really one of our goals, is for the first to have a really good time and get so many people out there to have a good time too. So that's really important for us as a band, you know, because that kind of spirit you get when you play a metal concert. You can tell people outside the metal world how important that is. They have to see it, you know. They never understand it. But it's very important, and it don't matter if you're playing in Turkey or you're playing in Australia, I think, or in South America, or United States, or where the metal people is always there and always supporting, and that's really important.
Yeah, you raise a really important point there, because having a podcast series as I do, as I mentioned earlier, I get to see where people are listening from right down to the city. I get that data courtesy of the IP addresses. It doesn't give me the IP addresses. It just gives me what the nearest city is. So wherever the IP address is from the exchange or whatever. But anyway, but I see people all over the world listening to my podcast. So I know for a fact people all over the world listen to heavy metal. And my point here is that I get listeners in the Middle East, South America, everywhere. What I've noticed, and it's not just me, Jello Biafra from Dead Kennedys has made this exact point. He said that there's only two styles of music that cross all religious, social, and all of the fundamental barriers that are out there that generally keep people apart in society. And that's heavy. He said death metal, but I say heavy metal and jazz. That's it. Not hip-hop. Not even classical music does it, but it's heavy metal and jazz. They're the only two things where you can go to a bar in, say, Romania, as you can do into Somalia, and chances are, if you ask somebody in the know, they're going to point you in the direction of where a heavy metal gig is happening or a jazz show is happening. Has that been your experience too?
Yeah, I think so. I think, as you said, the metal, jazz and blues, but I think also because it's really music, it's really people who wanted to play that kind of music. It's not like rap, for example, where it's more like how much money, how evil can I get, or something like that, or pop music is only counting on how much money can we get here. I think, as I said, metal is from the heart, and people know that, they can hear that, and that's why metal still keeps going. I'm listening to heavy rock in the start from the 1970s, and up to now, and it's always still the same feeling. People really satisfied, really glad, really love to go out there and headbang, and it's still the same.
Yeah, I agreed. Yeah, people complain. I think that. I think it's true from a mainstream perspective, and Edu Trunk is exactly right when he says that the Grammys and the mainstream don't give a shit about rock music, and by association, I guess he means heavy metal as well. And he's right, because when you see Beyonce getting a Grammy for the best live rock performance, that's bullshit. Yeah. That's taking the place of a genuine rock band, and there's this carry on that rock music and heavy metal are white people's music in the United States, and it's bullshit, man. I mean, some of the best rock bands, Jimi Hendrix, King's X, they've had people who aren't white in them, or Jimi Hendrix, of course, isn't white, but you know my point, don't you? You understand the point that I'm making. Yeah. And to me, they're disrespecting the genre, and they're disrespecting the fans when they do stupid stuff like that. And there's nothing we can really do about it, but my overall point is I don't think heavy metal's ever been more popular than it is right now. And I mean, you're a musician through the 90s. I lived through the 90s as a teenager and as a young adult, and I saw firsthand that nobody gave a shit back then about heavy metal after the grunge thing exploded, and it was a very tough time to be a heavy metal band. There was, you really couldn't make a living from it. You go, you're right.
No, it was really a tough time, but as I said, the metal scene still survived, but it had really tough time at that point, because at that time the metal was only death metal or grunge. There was nearly nothing else at that time. But people learned that, and they really missed, I think, that kind of way, the happiness and the sharing the headbang up and out to play, and that came back, and I'm very glad because of that.
Yeah, it was really important, and as I say, I remember the 90s, so of course I remember the early 2000s, and I remember when it started to seep back in. You guys released Back, and then other bands like Creator and stuff sort of went back to playing proper thrash metal, when they were sort of experimenting with alternative styles. And I remember, and I think I agree with you about what you said about the 90s, by the way, and it sort of mirrors my own taste, which ironically a lot of the time, certainly when I started, that was grunge or death metal, because that was what was prominent at the time. Like, you either listened to Alice in Chains and Cannibal Corpse, or you really had to dig into, $2 bins to find some bands like Annihilator and stuff, you know what I mean? That's how I found those bands. Just looking at the album covers in the 90s, like in the early 90s, and they were seriously like $2 to $5. Like, you couldn't buy a CD that cheaply if you tried back then, new. But the second-hand stuff, they were appearing in there, and that's how I got into Creator, Annihilator, Sodom, Destruction. I just took a punt and didn't even know that the bands were that popular. Just looked at the album cover and just went, yeah, that looks like a heavy metal album. And, and I remember getting into Maiden that way too. That was another way I got into Maiden, got into Somewhere in Time or whatever it was that I got first. I can't remember now. But yeah, I mean, it's such an important thing. So I'll make this my final question, mate. With your artwork, Has there been a strategy with that as well? Because you got some pretty killer artwork.
Yeah, we only have one album who was really disrespecting you, people didn't really like. This was the Tarot Squad album, but that was only made for a cliche, the sketch at that time, and the record company took it over.
Yeah.
But I think with the latest album, I really love them and the latest one I think is one of the best because he's have it all, the mysterious and really good. Counting and stuff like that, and it's really show the face of fear in some way. I'm really like that, and I'm glad you like the covers.
Yeah, I think my favourite is probably My Blood, and I think it's probably a lot of people's favourite because it's such a visual image, isn't it? Really, to me that says a lot about civilization and humanity. But I love your logo too, mate. Your logo was unmistakable. It just have you had many fans with tattoos? The artillery logo tattooed?
I've seen some, yeah, but I don't know if it's many. But I've seen, I think 4 or 5 who had it. And one had all the back tattooed. So in a Brazilian guy.
Wow.
So yeah, that was cool.
South Americans are so cool, aren't they? They just get into it so full on. Like one of my favourite interviews that I've done so far would have to be with Bill Hudson. He's Brazilian, but he's a United States citizen these days. And David Vincent's I Am Morbid and a few other things that he's in. But yeah, man, one of my best friends is Brazilian, actually. And South Americans, man, they just go in whole hog, don't they? They're just all about the emotion and the passion.
Yeah, the South Americans are totally crazy. They are so much into the scene and the metal as you're really surprised first time you play there because they never stop. They're marching around all the time. They're cool people. So I'm looking really forward to see the Australian guys. I heard some good rumors, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, there won't be, there are probably 200 of us or so in the crowd. You know how it is when there's not massive amounts, 150 to 200 men, but you'll be appreciated, brother, let me assure you. There's a lot of people that are very, very grateful for the fact that, the promoter and yourself have come to an agreement and you are coming down here, man, because you're an important band and I want you to know that.
Thank you very much. And we're looking really forward to come, so that's a good combination. And I hope you got the time to drink a beer with us, some of the places.
I want to. Believe me, it's so tough these days. I've got 2 kids, as I have my 5 and 4-year-old, and you've probably got kids yourself, so you know what it's like. But I will be going to the shows, yeah, no doubt about that, brother. So if we can hook up and have a stein beforehand, man, I'd really appreciate it, or afterwards even. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Let's see that. Write to me and we can arrange something.
Sweet, man. No worries. All right. Well, look, good luck with everything. Congratulations on an outstanding career. It's been a real privilege to talk to you, mate, by the way. I've admired you guys for a long time, man. So keep on doing what you're doing, brother.
Thank you very much. See you and have a great time.
You too, mate. No worries. Talk to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take care.
Catch you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. You've been listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online, and my name, of course, is Andrew Mackay-Smith. That interview subject was Michael Stützer from the Danish thrash outfit Artillery. Thanks for listening.